This is all about Bitcoin, a show dedicated to all things questions and markets related to Bitcoin, little b for the currency, and Bitcoin, big B for the network. A collective journey to understand, apply, and use this innovation, all Bitcoin, all the time. I'm your host, Christine Lee. Let's have a live look at Bitcoin. The Coindesk Bitcoin price, XVX index, currently trading at near 39,500 and change. Bitcoin is up slightly, about 3.7% over the past 24 hours. The most reliable reference prices for institutions since 2014 are now published under the Coindesk brand, trusted globally as the leader in crypto news, events, and data. Let's take a look at some of our top stories. Bitcoin struggling below that $40,000 resistance as the short squeeze rally fades. BTC is down 4% over the past week. Short-term oversold signals suggest the pullback could stabilize above $36,000 support. Meanwhile, SEC Chair Gensler reiterating his views that many cryptocurrencies are securities this morning on CNBC. On Bitcoin, he said he is pro-innovation, but private monies have a history of failing, and he is focused on stability and guarding against illicit activity. Separately, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is acknowledging having seen significant consumer price increases in recent months, but that she anticipates monthly inflation rates coming down by the end of the year to levels consistent with price stability. And U.S. Senator Dick Durbin foreseeing that the $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill in the Senate that aims to raise $28 billion in crypto tax revenue will pass this weekend or on Monday. And finally, Bitcoin Satoshi's Vision suffering a 51% attack since Tuesday morning that has continued today. A 51% attack occurs when malicious miners take control of more than 50% of the proof of work blockchain. The attackers can then reorganize blocks and invalidate transactions from honest miners. This is the fifth attack targeting BSV in the last 2 months. And joining us now to discuss is Sean Rooney, head of research at crypto asset manager Valkyrie Investments. Good to have you on the show, Sean. So, looking at Gary Gensler's comments, some view them positively in providing clear pathways to compliance that don't run afoul of regulators. Others fear they are aggressive and will stifle innovation. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, thanks for having me on today. Overall, I would view the comments from Chair Gensler as positive for the possibility of a Bitcoin ETF. He seemed to be opening the door for a later date down the road. But in some of his other comments, he did specifically mention that the long-awaited regulation of the crypto markets as a whole and exchanges as a whole will likely need to happen first. Having said that, he did seem to favor the appearance of a Bitcoin futures ETF ahead of a spot product.
Right. So Gensler is saying that he anticipates companies will file for ETFs under the existing 1940 Investment Company Act, which regulates mutual funds and closed-end funds and which provides, quote, significant investor protections. Given these important protections, he looks forward to the staff's review of such filings, particularly if those are limited to CME-traded Bitcoin futures. Now, Valkyrie has filed for a Bitcoin ETF. Do you think the SEC will approve one anytime soon? And hearing his comments, how do you reflect on your own application?
Well, I think it's fairly obvious that this would be a more comfortable situation for some people that have concerns as the products that would be involved in the futures form of an ETF would be cash settled and executed by trusted and regulated platforms like the CME. And that is despite CME uses the aforementioned exchanges as an index to settle the contracts. So basically, I view this as another step in the right direction.
Is the Valkyrie Bitcoin Fund linked to the CME in any way?
Excuse me?
Is the Valkyrie Bitcoin Fund ETF linked to the CME futures in any way?
Oh man, I'm sorry. I'm just cutting out a little bit here.
Okay. Hopefully we can get those audio issues resolved if you can hear me. Just wanted to ask you if the Valkyrie Bitcoin ETF was at all linked to CME futures. Can you hear me?
I'm sorry. Something is off right now with the audio.
All right, we'll try to get those audio issues resolved and we'll go to a quick break. All right, coming up next, we will talk more about Bitcoin price analysis with Coindesk's Galen Moore.
Coindesk Indexes, the market standard for crypto assets since 2014. Our trusted data powers billions in publicly traded funds. Coindesk Indexes are the standard used by institutions, and they're the key for investors looking to understand and access crypto markets.
As the company that launched the world's first ever Bitcoin ETF, we at Purpose chose the Coindesk Bitcoin Price Index, the XBX, to price our assets.
Coindesk Indexes enabled the early adopters to build crypto investment vehicles, and they're already trusted by a new generation of global investors.
The chart of the day is brought to you by Crypto.com, the world's fastest growing crypto app.
We haven't seen the glut of companies buying up Bitcoin to put on their balance sheets in the second quarter of this year like we did in the first quarter. But what we have seen, according to the Coindesk research team, is an immense amount of capital pouring into crypto companies through venture capital funds or direct investment. This chart showing that there has been more deal activity for blockchain-focused companies in the first half of 2021 than there was in all of 2020. VC funding globally across all industries is at record highs so far this year, but even so, the share of deal activity going into crypto and blockchain startups is also on the rise, increasing from about 0.9% to almost 6% from the second half of 2020 to the first half of 2020. And I hear that we actually do have Sean back with us. So Sean, welcome back if you can hear me. I hope everything is okay. So my last question to you was on the Valkyrie Bitcoin ETF. Is it at all linked to CME futures? And it seemed that Chair Gensler had a preference for such an arrangement.
Yes, and it does seem that that is the manner that it will be more comfortable for regulators to have this Bitcoin futures product be another step in the direction towards a spot product down the road. Having said that, it seems that there is some anxiety amongst regulators that the Bitcoin, the spot Bitcoin is being captured by non-KYC addresses. And so in my opinion, this a spot ETF is also important to capture some of that Bitcoin into regulated products and healthy for the overall ecosystem.
At the same time, Sean, Valkyrie launching a Dash Trust, that is a closed-end crypto fund with staking. Now, Gensler was saying that trading, lending, and DeFi platforms have to register with the SEC, and if they don't, Americans should not be on their platforms, even if they use VPNs or virtual private networks. So how do you see this playing out?
Well, we are very excited to be launching the fourth fund that we have, and this is Valkyrie has been anxious to launch this product as it's a project with relatively long history and a loyal following and global exposure, and so we do plan to list this product as soon as we are able.
All right. Switching topics, BSV is having a pretty awful couple of weeks. And BSV is a fork of Bitcoin Cash, which is a fork of Bitcoin. It's suffering network attacks that has exchanges reportedly suspending trading of BSV. Binance is shutting down its BSV mining pool. And the attacker isn't doing it for a profit. They would make more money mining, honestly. But it appears this is being done to wreak havoc. So just wondering, what do these malicious attacks have to say about the stability of the network, especially this being a proof of work network?
So it's always serious news and dramatic when a blockchain suffers some damage to their network. And Bitcoin SV developers and followers have always held that this version of the chain exists to restore some of the original vision of Bitcoin. But on the flip side, there has to be that computational power and hash rate built up to make it difficult or hopefully near impossible for attacks like this to occur.
All right. We'll end it there. Just want to add that with Bitcoin Cash, it is headed by Craig Wright, who claims to be Satoshi Nakamoto, which of course is a controversial claim to make. And he's trying to patent the whole blockchain space and is widely disliked as a personality in the crypto space. So that could have something to do with why BSV is being targeted. All right, Sean, thank you for joining us. That was Sean Rooney from Valkyrie Investments. Now, moving on to our Coindesk Director of Data and Indexes, Galen Moore in Boston. Welcome to the show, Galen. So I had shown that chart before about VCs. Now, institutions may not be as enthusiastic about Bitcoin as they were earlier this year, but VCs are putting their money into blockchain startups. So what does this say about where we are in this current cycle?
Yeah, two things, Christine. One, VC dollars in general are just surging right now, dominated by larger so-called non-traditional venture, like hedge funds, for example. And two, I think institutional interest is picking up, but the challenge is both regulatory and fiduciary with direct investment into Bitcoin or other cryptos are noted. Venture represents a much more straightforward path into exposure for some of this institutional capital.
Okay. And so what does this mean for Bitcoin? And I'd like to hear your outlook on Bitcoin, seeing as how we did see a bit of a rally, in these past few weeks with the short squeeze. Now we're still back in that 30 to 40,000 trading range. It looked like we were going to break out over the weekend with that 42,000 resistance. But what are you seeing now?
Well, I can tell you that if you are trying to raise capital for a Bitcoin-related actively managed fund or technology project, now is a good time. Even anecdotally from conversations here in Boston, I've noted that. And the numbers certainly do bear it out. But for Bitcoin in general and the Bitcoin price, I think, look, Chairman Gensler's skepticism of the crypto spot markets and their reliability against manipulation is likely to further dampen the sort of enthusiasm that of institutional investors for participating directly in the spot markets in a way that would push up the Bitcoin price. So that's sort of the headwind, I feel like, in this environment.
So are these regulatory talks potential headwinds for Bitcoin going forward?
Well, it's not just the regulatory sort of move. I don't think Chairman Gensler's comments, recent comments, were a particular surprise. As your previous guest, Sean, noted, they did seem to open the door, at least a crack, for certain kinds of approaches to a Bitcoin ETF. But I do think, look, the challenge here that everybody knows is that crypto markets may be manipulated. And I think that's a challenge that at Coindesk Indexes we're very focused on, which is why we select markets in the way that we do as constituents for our price indexes.
Speaking of market manipulation, Gensler also said on CNBC this morning that many crypto trading platforms are not on regulatory regimes that protect investors like the New York Stock Exchange does, and so are open to manipulation. So we do see a global regulatory crackdown on exchanges like Binance. So should we be concerned of these trading platforms?
I think there's certainly any number of reasons to be concerned about certain trading platforms compared to others. I don't want to get into specific names, but we do, vet trading platforms very carefully by a list of criteria, including liquidity, compliant U.S. dollar markets, AML KYC, and only markets that have those qualities can contribute to our price indexes, which form the building blocks of multi-asset products like the Coindesk DeFi Index, the DFX.
All right, Galen, we'll end it there. Thank you for joining us and your analysis. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much, Christine.
Coindesk Director of Data and Indexes, Galen Moore. And that's it for All About Bitcoin. I'm your host, Christine Lee. Join us tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. in New York for First Mover, your first look at the day's global crypto news headlines. You're watching Coindesk TV.